While in Seattle recently, I visited ChefSteps Kitchen Laboratory, where co-founder Grant Crilly showed me how to make smoky, delicious ribs using tools that are available to any apartment dweller. No smoker or open flame is required. The secret is in the rub, but it isn't all about spices. In addition to a fairly traditional complement of spices, including caraway, paprika, black salt, mustard seed, celery seed, mace, and peppercorns, Grant dries a mixture of onions and garlic in a 375-degree oven for a couple of hours until the vegetables are brown and crispy crunchy, but not burnt. Then combines the dried vegetables with the spices using a tool I was very familiar with. Okay, so we've got our spices. This looks super familiar to me.
Yep. These are in grocery stores all over the place in the bulk coffee aisle. Mm-hmm. Again, you can use a little spice grinder, a blender, whatever, but we're very particular about the size we want. We want a nice coarse grind. And since these are nice big burr grinders, you can dump all your spices in, salts, all this stuff, and it just comes out beautifully.
And do you worry with a grinder this big that you can't see what's going on inside? Do you worry about getting whatever the last spice was in here in your next dish?
What we'll actually do is dump like a cup of kosher salt through. Okay. Kind of like scrubs up the burrs and comes out real nice. Yeah. Okay. The one thing that I learned is never stick juniper berries in here.
Oh,
because they're like resinous. So sticky.
Oh.
That was a disaster.
That seems bad.
It was bad.
But I mean, this looks like a good excuse to upgrade your coffee grinder to me.
I think it is, and I don't know if I would buy a new one, but I got this guy at an auction. They're surprisingly common. I think I paid $250 for it, which even like the little Barazzas
it's cheaper than a Barazza, yeah.
And you just chuck it in, and the settings are great, and out comes like beautiful spices or beautiful coffee.
It's rad. I can't wait to see how this goes.
Yeah, I love it. So here's all our nice roasted veggies. Yeah. I want to make sure it's actually going to get in the grinder. Love that smell.
There's a much more smoky smell here than I would have expected, given what you've told me so far.
And as soon as you grind it up, it kind of opens up all the little insides and pores. It starts to smell real fresh.
Is there still some oil in there, or is it just the dry ingredients?
Very little natural oils from the garlic and onion, but they don't have a lot of oil.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just kind of little bits of essential oil.
There's a big bowl of spices.
Big bowl of spices. I don't know if this is the bowl to do it, but let's see if we can. Let's do fine. Yeah, about that texture.
So you're grinding this on the between fine and espresso, according to the grindmaster.
So it's pretty coarse.
But this would be about 3 hours of grinding in a mortar and pestle.
Oh my god. Yeah, and then you end up with fines and coarse bit, and this guy's just nice and consistent.
Thanks, Grindmaster.
Right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I just love it. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It's awesome.
It's super. Okay.
Yeah. It's got the salt in there now.
It's salty. There's a little bit of smoke. There's a little bit of heat on the end.
Yep.
And then there's a different kind of salt there too. It's hit me just at the finish.
Oh my god, I love it.
That's super cool. So this is, like you said, this is 5 or 10 batches of ribs easy.
Yeah.
Is there marinade in the ribs or no?
I don't put anything in the ribs. Sometimes for the ribs when we're cooking them sous vide, and it actually helps hold on to moisture, we just sprinkle it with a little bit of salt.
Okay.
Too much salt can really dry them out, and it usually ends up being about 0.5% if you really want to get serious and weigh them.
Okay.
And that 0.5% salt really helps the meat hold on to some of that moisture. It's kind of like why you have salt in a hot dog, helps it stay emulsified and snappy.
So you don't end up with that bag full of liquid with a piece of meat floating in it?
Yeah, you'll always have a little bit, but we'll actually use that for other things too. So, yeah, so
you just use a Ziploc, nothing fancy here.
Yeah, you can use, we have a vacuum machine, and when we do real long cooks, we'll use a vacuum machine, but for this recipe, it's just not necessary.
It's a little, I mean, I find that the vacuum machine, it's a little less risky on the water leaking into the meat.
Oh yeah.
Assuming you set it up right
and
you do good seals and all that stuff.
And even if you don't want Ziploc, you can buy those nice bags, the nice vacuum machine bags, and you don't have to seal it. Yeah, you know? Or you use get the food saver and use the food saver bags.
And at the temperatures you're doing with an immersion circulator, you don't worry about leaching stuff out of the plastic into the food. It's something people always ask about.
Right. Yeah. At most of the temperatures we're cooking meat at, any of that stuff, it's not an issue. There's actually a new article that came out. Dave Arnold was part of. Actually, came out maybe 8 months ago or something. Where he worked with Ziploc, and they were starting to do tests where they weren't having any leaching even at boiling temperatures.
So, okay, that's good. So it means you can do veggies and the whole thing.
Yep.
Cool.
So here's the next phase to this. We've got our ribs. They're super juicy, beautiful. I know they
pretty tender there.
They are tender, but they have a nice snap. I know they still have that sous vide look to them right now, which is kind of boring.
A little sad and gray.
Yeah.
Not what you want.
Yeah.
But we're going to fix that.
Yeah.
So what are you rubbing on here?
So this is molasses. We thin it down. You can add a little bit of water, a little vinegar if you want. And if you want, you add a little bit of liquid smoke. If you really want it smoky, we usually get pretty mild. So we just brush this on so we have that sweet molasses acidity. And then it really helps the rub stick to it.
And for Memphis ribs, you want a little bit of sweet and you want a little bit of acid, right?
Yeah. So we just kind of go crazy on the rub.
And this is what's going to make our crust when we chuck them in the oven in a minute or two.
Yep.
So when you're developing a recipe like this, what's your process like? Where do you start with something like this?
Well, for this one, we had a pretty clear problem to solve. I really wanted nice bark. I really wanted nice crunch and nice smoke on the ribs. And you have these simple parameters for us, which is I don't have a smoker, I don't have a grill. How can I get those nice flavors in an oven? What are the tools I have in an apartment? So for us, let's take some vegetables, let's burn them.
How can we make smoke?
How can we make smoke with a home oven and turn it into actually like a rub or a liquid or something? And for us, we just ended up settling on the vegetables. In the first couple trials, for sure, we overcooked them and they were black and they're just way too bitter. And through that experience, we're like, let's tone it down. So we do the mellow cook over the night is the easiest one. You don't have to worry about burning them. Toast them just a little bit more. And from there, we started putting the rub on with the vegetables and the spices. Didn't have enough kind of smoke flavor for us or enough sweetness. So then we dig into the molasses. Let's figure that one out. And we wanted to stick a little more. So then we added the molasses rub.
Okay.
But it's a pretty simple problem solution stuff for us, We just kind of keep stacking those bricks of, I want more smoke, I want more flavor, I don't have this tool. Those are actually really fun problems for us to solve too.
A little bit of scientific method applied to food.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So we've got a rub on here, and the next step is just pop them in the oven. So if you were going to do a party, if usually when you're doing ribs or something, you're doing them for 8 people or 6 people.
Doing 5 racks.
Yeah, you're doing 5 racks. And at this point, you can just let these hang out in your kitchen, and you can maybe put 1 or 2 racks in at a time whenever people want them.
Okay.
You could put them all in if your oven was big enough. But these can really hang out for a little bit. You could actually put them back in the fridge and do the full reheat in the oven if you want.
And you're just going to put them in a baking sheet, nothing?
I'm just going to leave them right here on this.
Okay.
This moisture will dry up, and this rub will get nice and dark and crusty.
Cool.
And these are going to go in the oven.
And this is a commercial oven, but this will work in a normal oven.
Yep, you can pop them in here. This tray is too big for this guy, but it doesn't matter. You can throw them in there. Right now, this is a little bit fancier oven, but it's not doing anything your home oven doesn't do. Set at 400. This has a little fan stirring the air, and that's it. So, I don't know, 5-6 minutes, depends how dark you want them. So you're kind of drying out the outside so it has that nice bark to it. So we'll come back in a couple minutes.
Okay, so Grant, one of the things I always have a problem with when I do ribs is getting the membrane off the back.
Yeah.
Is there a trick for this?
I think so. I don't know if it's a trick, but I'll show you how I do it. So this is the top of the ribs right here. This is where the membrane is. It's this little sheet right here, this little piece of, it's not skin, it's just a membrane.
And there's nothing wrong with eating, it's just kind of unpleasant to eat.
Yeah, right? It can get, especially if you do traditional grilling or smoking, it gets very papery and tough. Less of a problem with sous vide because that moisture really starts to break it down. But you often have to do higher temperatures, longer times for it to become real tender.
Okay.
So we just get rid of it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, in order to get rid of it, you can start at this end or this end, but I usually start at the small end on something like baby backs. And you just get a nice dry rag.
Get your thumb in there and peel it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it really helps to have a rag. You don't need a knife, you don't need anything. This is the old school chef way to do it.
That is much easier than the way I've always done it. Yeah.
And if I can help it, all this good stuff, this nice fat, I leave that.
And you don't want to lose the little chunks of meat either. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's nice and straightforward, super tender ribs.
And now they'll cut easier and nothing to get in your way when you're eating.
Yep, and the other thing about the membrane that I don't like is you put a nice rub on it, and that membrane starts to peel or it's tough, and then you lose all the nice rubs that you just made on it. So this is great.
Perfect.
Yep, really straightforward.
These look great. You've got a little bit of brown on the crust, a little bit of top and bottom.
Yep. So the thing that you're going to see in the oven is, so I know I'm not overcooking, it just starts to pull away a little bit.
Okay.
That's the trick I look for. If it starts to pull a little more than that, and I go, okay, I'm overcooking it.
And then what's your strategy for cutting these? Just every other bone, or?
You could do singles, you could do doubles, you could serve a big guy like this, but just so we can show people how to cut them. These are trimmed here. They slice off this little shine bone, and we just start slicing right into them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man, those look good.
Yeah, and because they're cooked sous vide, they're just gonna have that really nice consistent texture we like, that nice snap to them. And they're just beautiful, and I like the big thick pieces like that.
That looks good.
Still got some nice collagen in there. Really beautiful.
Grant, these look fabulous. Can we go for a bite?
Yes, please.
I'm digging in here. Cheers.
A little hot.
Oh man.
Right?
Never would have guessed you didn't put these in the smoker overnight.
Apartment ribs, man.
That's amazing.
Oh my God.
Wow. Okay, one more bite and then I'm asking some more questions. It's just pulling off the bone. The meat's perfectly cooked. There's a ton of flavor on the outside. Meat's delightful. And just like you said, crisp, tender.
Right.
Yeah,
It's got a little bit of snap to it.
super strong.
The outside is still, it's like just a little bit dried out, which is just perfect for that bark and that crust. Yeah, I love these. I really love this recipe. And when you make, you can make a day project out of making a spice, and you make the 10 times batch. Whenever you want, you make your apartment ribs, which is just super straightforward.
Well, the neat thing about the rub is, I'm sure you can use it on other stuff too. You can put it on your pork chops, put it on your pork shoulder, whatever it is you want to make.
Yep. Salmon.
Grant, thank you so much. People want to know more about ChefSteps. What's the best place to find you guys?
The best place to find us is at chefsteps.com.
And we'll have more from ChefSteps on Tested later this week. See you guys later.